And then the other thing that I really was surprised to find out is how much you have to listen when you're directing. If you really want to do it well, you need to literally most of the time shut up and let other people talk. And then, out of, you explain what you feel, but then you have to really listen to a lot of opinions and then just very quickly say what you prefer. But it's much more listening than it is talking.
All right. Well, first, Giovanna, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about the film, and congratulations on it. It's an incredible achievement, and I really love it.
Thank you so much. That's so nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. So for my first question, I ultimately find the artistic process fascinating, as I'm sure many like-minded cinema lovers and people aspiring to pursue work inside the film industry do as well. This is why I'd love to start off this conversation by asking you about the moment you first discovered how profound and impactful animation could be, and when you first ultimately decided you wanted to pursue such work inside of your career.
Hmm. So I was really into animation since I was very, very young. Even I found recently an essay that somebody asked me to write, in my elementary school, and there is written I'd like to be an animator, which is insane because I don't think, I mean, usually you don't know they exist, animators at that age. But I was really lucky, I guess, because I grew up in a family in which there were a lot of artists coming in and coming out. So I was actually exposed to a lot of people who had real careers, very satisfying careers in the arts, in animation, in cinema, in literature, in all those domains that usually people will say, find yourself a real job. In my family, those were considered real jobs. So I was really lucky like that, because I think that's the first most important thing, is that you actually believe that you can do things. Then, but I liked it, like anyone likes it, like a child likes it. Then I started to really understand more and more. And I think that by the time I was in my late teens, I was also in love with cinema in general, with live action movies. I was really very much into music, and I love drawing. So for me, those two things started to come together, and they look like, okay, music plus drawing equals animation. And then I also like literature a lot, and stories and books. So that was also another layer. And then I think that when I saw Princess Mononoke from Miyazaki, that is where really I understood that the themes you could approach with animation went beyond in impact, well beyond what live action could do at times. That it could bring you to places in an easier way compared to live action. And that, I think, is where it really blew my mind, as I understood really, okay, you can really intersect and interconnect different realities and different themes, and in a way that becomes so poetic. And that's so much easier to do in animation than in live action, probably.
Like all great art, I'm sure that Éiru was the result of a creative spark that took hold and never let go. It's evident in every single point of this film this is a passion project through and through, telling such an emotionally layered and resonant story about human connection that feels so individualistic and nuanced throughout this vibrant animated lens. I'd love to discuss where the idea for the film first sprouted, and what the specific point was where you finally decided for yourself that this was a story that deserved to be told.
Uh, it was a series of events that led to the creation of this short, in the sense that there was an opportunity in the studio to actually make a short film, for me specifically, to make a short film, which is something that, again, is a very rare luck that usually never happens. So I feel very fortunate. And in my head, I had the themes of the movie of Éiru have been themes I've been obsessed with for a very long time. So I had already written other stories that were similar. I have already in my head some other projects that have similar themes and interconnections, so that have the same kind of resonance, and they connect the same dots in a way. But then in this specific case, there was an opportunity to create something, and there was a spark that was really given by the fact that there was an opportunity to talk about a folk story that, but I was completely left free to do it. And so I put together the things that I really cared about for my life into this.
And then I would love to touch on so many of the distinct stylistic choices within this film, as each frame of this movie is full of so many intricate details and richness to the animation that hides so much for eagle-eyed viewers to spot. There are so many deliberate choices made in terms of the style and theme of each clan within the film, with deep purples, reds, and greens highlighting the different nature-based motifs and symbols that each group represents. I'd love to touch on how you went about establishing each clan in the film and building them out in a way where they could work separately, yet also complementary, as we see in the end of the film.
Yes, there was a lot of work done by our director, Anya McGuinness, to nail that down. Initially, the clans were 4 and not 3. So maybe that's interesting. They were obviously representing elements, you know, the earth elements, and they were obviously representing. And we chose them when we went from 4 to 3. We chose the colors that look nicer together, actually, exactly for that reason. Because we wanted at the end for it to transform into something that was organically nice. So the symbol of it all is that indeed the 3 clans look good on their own, for sure. We could have a spin-off of each clan and it would be awesome, like, in their characteristic greens, purples and reds. But actually, symbolically, of course, it's very important at the end when they come together, the colors are beautiful colors of a nature that is actually really alive. So, symbolically, you need those 3 colors to have a proper environment and a proper life and proper beauty as well. So yeah, that was really what we were thinking of. But at the same time, they were carrying this own symbols of themselves. So of course, like it's obviously green for the trees, etc., etc. But also there was another layer in the coloring of those, in the sense that so there is this presence, this mystical presence that Éiru meets at the end of of a journey. There is this goddess that is it's a deity of nature that she brings back to life with the help of the others. But it exists. That is actually a goddess in ancient Ireland. It's Bridget. And that is a god that has some attributes. And actually there is a symbolism attached to her. In pretty much almost every frame I see of the movie carries some of that. And also the clans. So for instance, she is the goddess of fire, right? So red. But she also is a goddess of water. She's also is a goddess, like one of her symbols, like one of the symbols that really people connect her to is the well, but it's also the trees. So there is a lot of resonance in terms of also stylistic choices, of symbolic choices, and of color choices to connect the movie with her.
And then one of the most profound moments within Éiru is the precise moment where Éiru and the other children from the clans meet at the core of the earth, where they then find the source of the water in such a profound moment, in which we see these children who were all sent with their respective leaders, who don't view themselves as enemies like what has been instilled upon them before. Rather, they see each other as equals, as friends, and as companions. And the sense of connection helps heal not only their inner struggles, but their clans as well. It is in this moment that these characters begin to realize that their own perceptions were entirely based in truth, and that the opening up of viewpoints really helps heal and connect these characters in every sense of the word. I'd love to ask you not only what such an idea of breaking down perceptual barriers means to you from an artistic standpoint, but if also there was ever a time as an artist throughout your career in the animation realm where you approached an idea or project with one thought or idea in your mind, but realized quickly to yourself that it was something else entirely different from what you expected.
That's a very interesting question. Well, to me, yes, not as an art. It happened as an artist yeah, of course, every time you talk in an artist environment, in general, if you're having a meeting with other people, usually what you want is to have your mind changed. Or anyway, especially as a director, I think that you go to meetings or to this kind of brain exchanges, hoping to learn and hoping that you will listen more than you will talk. But that's it's a very lucky place to be. While for me personally, as a person, I'm an expat, and I have I mean, I've moved away from Italy when I was in my early 20s, and then I stayed pretty much in Europe, but I went to France, and then from there I went to Ireland. So I've been an outsider pretty much wherever I go. And my child as well, my daughter, she's 17 now. She was born in France from people who are not French. Now, we moved to Ireland. She's always been a bit of a outsider, and her friends are all outsiders. They're all like sons and daughters of expats. And I find it really like when I was young, when I moved out of my country, it was considered a great thing that young people were traveling in Europe and they were starting to connect each other. And that Europe was becoming this big, cauldron of different cultures. They were constantly helping each other, creating things together, and they were creating a new identity together that was one. And that's how I was brought up. And then things have changed lately. But I think that the spirit, politically speaking, things have changed a lot. And some people are starting to fall into the trap of defining themselves by defining the other as the other. And that is a trap that I think that young people don't necessarily fall into unless you make them. So we are not like that. Instinctively, I've seen it in young kids that were like them. The friends of my daughter, instinctively, they would go towards her and say, "Oh, you're new, let's talk." You know, they wouldn't be afraid of it. And actually, in fact, they would start to build on each other's, stories. So that's for me really where it comes from, that importance of that connection between children.
And then kind of building off of that, another profound takeaway I gained from Éiru truly speaks to a lot of the thematic and narrative strength and how the film conveys the powerful effort of blending and sharing cultures, and about how when we open up our viewpoint to the world around us, we can begin to experience a newfound sense of life that we haven't thus far. This is seen a lot in a lot of Cartoon Saloon's work, particularly within the films and Irish folklore trilogy. And it's an aspect of the studio's filmography that I find ultimately fascinating and moving with equal measure. I would love to ask you about what such a theme means to you personally on a craft and artistic level, and how you go about conveying and portraying a powerful theme such as this into a story such as Éiru's.
Yeah, so Cartoon Saloon has a tradition of obviously this. We are, as a studio, we're people inside the studio that have been there for a long time. I think we're like-minded humanly in the sense that we have this very similar values in a human point of view. So even ecological values, for instance, so we care about very similar things in this sense. We also have, I think, one of the things that really sets us apart and in a way bring us together, if you want, like, is that we don't like to, when we make movies, we don't like to lower ourselves at the height of a kid to talk, to baby talk a child. We'd rather, tell a story that is understandable for a child, but also for the parents. And, for us, it's very important that we don't talk down to kids, but we actually, just take them as they are, amazing human beings with incredible abilities, not as if they were like not like sometimes you have the feeling that artists, or anyway like movies, consider kids as if they were not finished adults. But it's not true. They're amazing creatures, they are people, they are intelligent. So that's for me what really makes, I think that's also something that people can feel in Cartoon Saloon storytelling style. Then there is the question that, to me, in order to do that, then and something that, yeah, I think Tom has done certainly in his movie, and Nora as well, is to, but what the trick for me is to layer things as in a cake, in a way that you have, a surface level that is readable for pretty much anyone, so that you can easily follow. In that case, it would be on, the very surface level of Éiru, our clan, the quest, and how it resolves. That's a very simple quest, and it's a very simple story. But then there is and literally in this case, and almost visually, an underground layer of subconscious reaching that is not only the character. In this case, it's quite meta because it's even the character is doing that. But in a way, if you think about it, a lot of traditional storytelling and movies use that as a symbol, like it's a cave, it's gonna be under the sea or under the surface of the earth. It literally is a digging process that if you're able to follow it profoundly, well, that's great. If you're too young or not ready or whatever, not in the mood that day, that's fine as well. So it leaves you open, and it doesn't force you as a viewer into something specific, but it does actually suggest a subtext that is much more profound. And then in the case of Éiru, there is, and in case of other Cartoon Saloon movies, there is a symbolic, even more, even higher level, that is the one I was alluding to before in terms of symbolism of spirituality or folklore. In this case, like certain, like the Trisco as a symbol, or the colors of certain, even the mycelium, all those symbolic references that come to, and they really touch you, like their ancestral images, almost like tarots reading. And you see a tarot, it hits you somewhere in the back of your brain that comes from having seen those images thousands of years and thousands of years. And yeah, that's something that is even more layered.
And I understand that Éiru was a collaboration between Cartoon Saloon and an organization known as HerStory, which is dedicated to preserving and fostering support through storytelling for female role models, which is such an incredible mission. I'd love to ask you about the collaboration with HerStory on this film, and how you ultimately arrived at the decision that their involvement mattered for this story in particular.
It's funny. So HerStory came to us with an idea for a bigger project. That was supposed to, like they had an idea to make a lot of short films about goddesses and to bring back, the ancient goddesses to life, which is beautiful. And that's where, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And that's where Bridget came from, the idea of Bridget. But then it was such a big project. It wasn't something we could fit in the pipeline at all. At the same time, when there was opportunity to do a short film, that the idea was there. I had written already the whole short, so we just went for it. And HerStory, what they're doing now, that's really, for me, super. It's the most satisfactory thing about the whole thing, the whole movie, is that they have curated and created an incredible number of workshops for children, about climate change, about anxiety for climate, anxiety for conflict. It's incredible, and all these workshops are themed on Éiru. They come with Éiru, and they really start from the short to then help the kids with physical activities, with manual activities and art activities and breathing exercises and descents into nature, walks in nature, and all these beautiful, amazing workshops that are just created from Éiru and they're developing it. So HerStory is really helping that. It is for me the most beautiful thing that can happen.
As I'm sure is the case with many audience members who have been fortunate enough to see the film thus far, I discovered Éiru on the film festival circuit, and it seems that the film has had quite a long journey on such a circuit thus far. You've been welcomed with open arms by festivals such as Indie Shorts, Fantasia Fest, and Edinburgh, just to name a few, and I'm sure the future of the film is chock full of a variety of festival appearances in the next few months. I'd love to ask you what it's been like to share such a project with the world thus far, and what your plans are for the future in regards to the film.
It's been really amazing to share it with so many festivals. I think it's a very long list, more than 25 festival, more than 25. We had quite some. It's been amazing to be received so well, and we found some real friends of the movie as well. Some people who really love it and seem to be, really, really, really supporting us and the movie so much. And I don't know. I of course, when you make a movie, you hope people will watch it. You hope people will like it. And until now, it's gone well beyond my expectations. I'm really, really impressed. I think what I like the most is to see that everybody takes different, like everybody comes home with a different touch, with a different idea. Sometimes it's surprising. For instance, Irish people don't feel like, usually Irish people, Irish audiences don't feel that water is, don't take it literally as a symbol. Like they understand, yeah, okay, it's a resource that's gone, but they don't connect it with something literal because there's so much water available in Ireland. While in Indianapolis, it was clear that the water missing from the well was much more literal, much more something they lived through. And I relate to that because of being Italian. I've seen rivers disappear in my homeland, and that's, I know how it feels, how discombobulating and horrifying it is when a river that's always been there just doesn't exist anymore. So it's a different, but the Irish will absolutely connect to all the symbols of Bridget as a goddess that are like second nature to them. And then other people, they're like, I have women who came with, oh yeah, that reminded me of that experience I had as a kid. So it's very diverse, and I find it incredibly moving and also refreshing and surprising. For the future, we are now, we've been, we won several festivals that allowed us to be eligible for the Oscars. So we're now officially in an Oscar campaign, the first round of the Oscar campaign, which is incredible. I feel super lucky. It's just a dream come true to be able to share with so many people. We're going to animations film. We're going to a lot of other festivals. Not all of them have, I can't say it. Some things are still, but it's going really well. I cannot believe it. And I'm just so happy that it gets to be seen by so many people. It's really what we do that for,
And then I'm sure audiences everywhere will fall in love with Éiru just as I did as its festival run continues and its reach expands. As the film
Thank
itself
you.
is such a rich and lyrical experience from a visual and thematic standpoint, I'd love to ask you, what is one specific item, idea, or contemplation that you want audiences to walk into Éiru knowing as they prepare to embark on that cinematic journey for themselves?
That it was made with love. That's it. That's all they need to know. I think the least they know, the better. I want them to come in and just feel the movie. I When I was preparing the movie, I had a person come over and give us a session of Irish folklore storytelling, traditional oral storytelling. Like Ireland actually started writing really late compared to other countries in Europe because their oral tradition was so good that you didn't really need writing. So in a way, it's Christians brought it. Um, Irish would do very well without. And and I think that makes sense in a country where music, where now cinema, like, and live, like, even comedy is such an important aspect of the culture and the tradition. If you go to a pub, there will be somebody playing an instrument. If you go, anywhere, there will be somebody performing. Performance is really part of the fabric of society in Ireland. And I think that that's just something I wanted people to feel. And when I had this experience of having a person giving me a real immersive storytelling session in which they were telling me a story like that in front of me, I felt dragged, like I didn't know what I was expecting. And I felt like she took like me by the hand and she just dragged me into a place. And I just mesmerized for an hour. It was one of the most incredible experience and mind-blowing things I have experienced. It was incredible. And there was, no special effect, nothing. There was just a voice talking to me. At the end of it, I had images in my head. I had a lot of feelings, and I also lost completely sense of time. And that's what I wanted. I kind of wanted the movie to feel like that. I just wanted to feel like you were just taken away and without knowing anything, and you were going to a different place. So that's where, I don't want them to know anything. I just want to come in and then feel it.
And then for my last question in this conversation, I'm sure that the process of crafting a film like Éiru was a richly rewarding and artistically challenging process, to be sure. Everything in life is a learning experience, which is why I would love to ask you for one specific lesson or takeaway you gained through the process and production of Éiru that you feel will help you as prepared to embark on a future production or career endeavor.
Huh. Um, yeah, I think that I so I worked for a very long time in animation before I got to direct, and I worked closely to directors for a very long time before I got to direct. So I know I worked on directorial positions before, so it wasn't totally new. I felt like, I didn't feel scared. That was I really enjoyed, and I had a lot of fun. So in a way, it taught me that the time I spent preparing and doing, animation and other had a story and storyboard projects, and all the times that I worked on other people's movies actually really helped me find my voice, but also, understand what I didn't want, or understand what kind of environment I wanted to foster on the team. I think, and then, but that came at a cost of patience. I didn't get to make my first short film when I was in my 20s, which is the dream of every person, you know and not in my 30s neither. So I had to wait for a very long time. But I think that's another time for, like, it happens all the time. Animation keeps teaching you one lesson, which is patience. And that's, again, I learned the same lesson: patience, to be patient. And there is a reason, if there is a reward for everything. um, and then the other thing that I really was surprised to find out is how much you have to listen when you're directing. Um, if you really want to do it well, you need to literally, most of the time, shut up and let other people talk. And then, out of, you explain what you feel, but then you have to really listen to a lot of opinions and then just very quickly say what you prefer. But it's much more listening than it is talking.
Absolutely. Well, Giovanna, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the best going forward with
Thank
the film.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.